about where and by whom the parameters should be drawn so as to accommodate constitutional realities in the global south. But the potential gains for the practical applications of comparative constitutional law are tantalising. In particular, it's possible, although by no means certain, that a more contextual and less prescriptive focus on constitutional challenges in the global south would lead to outcomes that work better for their peoples. My third theme, which I will deal with much more speedily, returns to states with established and apparently stable constitutional arrangements. In the past, these states have provided benchmarks and presented as role models for others seeking the benefits of constitutional democracy. And these also are the states from which, until recently, much scholarship tended to emanate. Like much of the rest of the world, the constitutional arrangements of these states have shown signs of deterioration in recent years. Even without turning to what seem obvious examples of democratic decay, constitutional systems look a bit tired. Symptoms include the following: declining membership of political parties, widespread disengagement from traditional politics, the expansion of executive authority, over-reliance on courts to protect constitutional values, putting their independence and expertise at risk, deepening polarisation within communities, sometimes driven by identity politics and sometimes by epidemics of fake news, and suspicion of state and other public institutions fueling privatisation and the dominance of private economic over public interests. These developments have negative implications for what I've been describing as the traditional constitutional template and its global currency. Most obviously, the decline in the legitimacy and performance of constitutional institutions in sections of the global north raises questions about the attraction of the model around which convergence historically has occurred. And this in turn has implications for the geopolitical competition between democratic and authoritarian constitutional systems. Constitutional competition has been a reality for some time, but now is more marked than at any time since the Cold War. There's also a potentially more positive story, however. In parallel with symptoms of constitutional deterioration are new initiatives that could play a role in democratic resurgence. Their collective effect is to include a wider and different range of citizens in active public decision-making than typically occurs in a representative democracy. And I mentioned three such initiatives in particular. One is greater recourse to the mechanisms of direct democracy through referendum or plebiscite. Another is the growing use of deliberative gatherings of diverse citizens to consider and seek consensus on contested issues. These have a variety of names, but Citizens' Assembly is common. And a third proposal, still on the drawing board, is to use technology to enable citizens to participate directly in public decision-making processes in what Helene Landemore has termed open democracy. What we may be seeing here is evolution of the traditional forms of representative democracy. Equally, however, we may not. This theme is unstable as well. Many publics are still in a developmental stage, and the use of technology in the way that Landemore has suggested is untested. All of these techniques are vulnerable in an age of polarisation fueled by the global spread of fake news. And the relationship between each of them and the form and operation of traditional democracy is unclear. If, as seems more likely, they are used to complement representative democracy, the traditional representative institutions and processes have a lot of adapting to do. But if they seek to replace representative democracy, in part or in whole, the upheaval will be greater still and will certainly be resisted. A theoretical debate about the respective merits of election and sortition already is underway. Even if these initiatives become established, they may not have global application. Much of this experimentation is taking place in the global north, and some of it in relatively small and homogeneous states in the global north. By their nature, these particular institutions and processes seem less suited to larger states, and in particular to states that are less affluent and more divided. So for the moment, they look like offering new points of difference between states in the global north and elsewhere. So now let me conclude. We live in a time when comparative constitutional law on a global scale is a necessity and gradually becoming a reality. But the field continues to face challenges. Some stem from its earlier, more limited parameters, and some are new. In this lecture, I've packaged 3 sets of these challenges as themes or puzzle pieces that collectively contribute to a grand picture of global comparative constitutional law. Each of those 3 themes presently is developing largely in isolation from the others, and each is itself in a state of flux. On one view of possible outcomes indicated by current conditions, the themes could be reconciled through greater recognition of the relevance of constitutional context, acceptance of the reality and value of difference, and openness to the continuing evolution of constitutional arrangements. But even on that view, reconciliation may look different in different regions of the world, and these outcomes are unpredictable, at least partly dependent on factors well beyond constitutional law. Running through all these themes is a tension between transnational standards and the relevance of local ownership and difference. This is an old tension, given new life by the expansion of the international sphere. Resolution of the tension to ask who should do what, why, and how is a key issue for the future of both constitutional and international law. There presently are no definitive answers. Oddly, there isn't even much debate. There is an opportunity for progress here. At the moment, the relationship between constitutional and international law is treated by both as a zero-sum game. Constitutional lawyers assume state sovereignty, largely ignoring both the significance of the exercise of external sovereignty and the implications of the need for collective action in the global common good for the responsibilities of state actors. International lawyers, on the other hand, envisage a continued exponential growth of international law with assumed hierarchical superiority vis-à-vis state law, while ignoring the dependence of international law on effective state action within the framework of a working constitution. There's a need for productive dialogue between these 2 different and influential legal worldviews, even if in the short term the outcome is no more than better informed and respectful coexistence in conscious acceptance of pluralism. Thank you very much.